Hey, what's up? Welcome to my channel. I'm Ivy, and today I'm going to be doing my July wrap-up and August TBR. So, I'm gonna start with the shows that I watched this month, and by shows I mean show because the only thing I watched was Loki. This takes place after Loki has disappeared with the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame, and so we're following this version of Loki as he goes on some pretty interesting adventures. This show is the beginning of some very exciting stuff in the MCU. It's really like opening up the world and it's gonna be very interesting from here on out. I'm not gonna like go into details because spoilers, but I'm really excited. It's a very interesting storyline. It's very unique and it really makes you think. It's definitely different from anything Marvel's ever done before. It's getting very, very complicated, but so far I think they're doing a good job with it. The ending of season 1 was insane. I'm so excited that there's gonna be a season 2, and I really need to know what happens next because this is some pretty crazy stuff. There's great music. It gives me such Stranger Things vibes, like the opening music when the title shows up. There's some pretty cool new characters that get introduced in here. Again, I'm not going to go into details because spoilers, but it's pretty exciting stuff, and I'm excited to see more from some of these people in the future. Tom Hiddleston is absolutely phenomenal. He's such an icon, and he plays Loki so well. Loki is one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time. He's so just amazing. I'm in love with him. So I'm giving Loki season 1 a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and so far I haven't cried. Alright, so the first movie that I watched in July was Booksmart, which I had been wanting to watch for so long, and I'm so happy that I finally did. This is about two high school best friends who have done everything right in high school. They've studied hard, gotten good grades, never done anything wild or crazy, but on the night before graduation, they decide that they're gonna let loose and party to show their classmates that they are capable of partying. As you can tell from that description, it's like so funny. There are so many hilarious scenes in this movie that I was just absolutely cackling at. It's just a fun, chaotic, and weird and wild ride that you just kind of gotta sit back and enjoy. That being said, it does have a serious undertone, and there was a point in the movie when it shifted from just like, ha ha ha, this is so funny and lighthearted, to like really emotionally intense. And I don't know why, but I really like it when movies do that to you. The two main characters were great. They're just hilarious goofballs. The actors who played them are great. It has a really fun soundtrack. I was bopping along the entire time, and overall I just really enjoyed it, although not quite as much as I was expecting to. Like, it wasn't quite the best thing I've ever seen, but it was still really, really good. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I did not cry. Then I watched Inside, the Bo Burnham special on Netflix. So this was my first thing that I've ever seen of Bo Burnham. He is a retired comedian, I believe. He used to do stand-up, but this special was what he worked on over quarantine. He did everything himself, like the acting and singing and the production and the writing and the everything. So it's absolutely incredible that he did this all pretty much single-handedly. This is very difficult to describe. As the special goes on, you just kind of watch as he becomes less and less stable, and it's hard to tell if it's real, like this was legitimately happening, or if he was just acting, but I kind of like that we don't know for sure. The only way for me to describe this is just random and weird. There's songs, like, it's comedy, but a lot of it is like more dark humor, and he's like singing and then he's not. It jumps around a lot, and I liked it. It was just an interesting style, and you just kind of have to sit back and take it all in. A lot of times there would be a lot of substance to what he was saying, and he'd really be making a statement, and then other times it would just be like random whatever, not really saying much at all. It deals with a lot of mental health and, like I said, dark humor, so be aware of that before going into this. And honestly, another good way for me to describe this would be, it's just a brain dump, I feel like, of what is going on in Bo Burnham's head. He just dumped it out into this special. So much of it is just so brilliant. He's obviously very intelligent. I think I would really love to rewatch this because, I don't know, I think I'd get more out of it the second time, but I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I did not cry. Next is Black Widow. I saw it twice. I have been waiting for this movie since I first watched Iron Man 2 years and years and years and years ago. This is the women-led Marvel movie that should have come out like 10 years ago. It is so beautiful and so empowering. It takes place after Captain America Civil War, I believe. I'm a little fuzzy on the timeline because I suck. But Natasha basically has to go off the grid and into hiding because of what happened in Civil War and like the Sokovia Accords and all that stuff. This movie just adds so much to Natasha's character. The fact that we get to see her like outside of the Avengers and what she does with them, and like we see her childhood and everything that she's gone through, the fights that she's fought, the people that she cares about, like her personal growth, the trauma. It's just, it made me appreciate her so much more than I already did, and I already appreciated her so much. It makes me like 10 times more sad about what happened in Avengers Endgame. Like I can barely even think about it without getting really upset. The story was so good. It was like so different from anything Marvel has ever done before, and it was just so gripping. And even though the stakes weren't super high, because we know that Natasha survives this movie, it was still emotionally charged to like the most high degree. This has some incredible dynamics between the characters, specifically between Natasha and Yelena, her sister, who we've never met before, but it's such a great sister dynamic. It's so much fun. Their just banter and how much they love each other and what they're willing to do for each other is so fantastic. Florence Pugh stole the show. She absolutely just blew me away. This is still Black Widow's movie, but honestly, it could have been Yelena's movie. Yelena is my new favorite Marvel character of all time, hands down. There's just so much depth to this girl. She's been through so much, and like Florence Pugh just brings it alive so well, and you can just see how much she's been damaged, and oh my god, it's so good. She is hilarious, she is fierce, she is honest and down to earth, and it's just so unique and so unafraid to be herself. I've never seen a character quite like Yelena. I am so happy for Scarlett Johansson that this movie finally happened and that it's so good and that she was like an executive or co-producer or whatever it's called, and I'm just so happy she finally got her solo movie because she deserves it so much. Make sure that if you see it, you watch the post-credits scene. Some of the people in both theaters that I went to left, and I was laughing at them because that's hilarious, but also tragic. This is definitely one of the best Marvel movies ever, in my opinion. Obviously, this gets 5 out of 5 stars, and yes, it made me cry. After watching Black Widow, I was in such a Marvel mood, so I decided that I'm gonna try to rewatch all the movies, so I started with Iron Man. This is just a classic. It really just, watching it again, made me appreciate the MCU and like how groundbreaking it is, and just epic. The fact that there's still stuff tying in, like after all this time, just shows you how amazing and intricate and well thought out the MCU really is, and that's what I love so much about it. Iron Man gets a 5 out of 5 stars from me, and it did not make me cry. Then I watched The Incredible Hulk for the first time ever. It was definitely meh. Like, I knew going into it that it was gonna be meh, but I was hoping that I would like it more, but no, just meh. It just lacked the MCU charm that you're so used to in like literally every other MCU movie. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me being used to Mark Ruffalo playing Bruce Banner. It's an interesting concept, but that's about as far as the interest goes. It honestly felt like I was watching the same scene over and over and over again, and there was absolutely no substance to it. No point. I'm glad I watched it because there were some connections to the broader MCU, but also there's some stuff in here that you think would be addressed later on, but it never was. I'm glad I watched it, but it wasn't that great. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars and I did not cry. So then I moved on to rewatch Iron Man 2. This is a great time for a movie. I really enjoyed myself. It's so funny when I'm watching these, like, I forget about so much, but then when I'm watching I'm like, oh yeah, this happened. This movie isn't anything groundbreaking, but I think it's like an important and good step in Tony Stark's journey, and just you kind of get to know him more, you spend more time with him and Pepper, and also some new characters that get introduced like Natasha and Rhodey, and that's all that I can think of off the top of my head. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I did not cry. Then I watched In the Heights, which I was so incredibly pumped for, and it did not disappoint. This is a movie musical that takes place in a neighborhood in NYC that's called Washington Heights, and it's just filled with Latinx culture, and it was so phenomenal, so much fun. I had like the biggest grin on my face for so much of it, but then also it kind of ran me over like a truck because I was crying too. It's just such a vibrant and beautiful and great setting. I don't know how else to describe it. I think vibrant is a good way. The music is amazing, the singing is amazing, the dancing is amazing. I really want to listen to the soundtrack like over and over and over again because it's phenomenal. The acting is great. Anthony Ramos, I'm sorry I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he was so good. I absolutely adored him. Anytime he was on screen, I was just so happy, and he made me just feel so like warm inside. It's a beautiful and compelling story. The characters each go on a very powerful journey, and there's a lot said in this movie too, like lots of good social commentary, and I just loved how honest and real it felt. I am deeply, deeply in love with the characters in this movie and their dynamics. Just watching them all be together and how much they care about each other, and I wanted them all to succeed so much. I wanted them to be so happy and have everything that they ever wanted, and it was so good. 5 out of 5 stars. Yes, I cried. And then the last thing that I watched in July was Newsies. This was actually my first time watching this, which is pretty shocking because it's a classic movie musical, and I'm so glad that I did because it was so much fun. This is about a group of newsies who decide to go on strike after the newspaper company raises the prices on the papers. Essentially, we just have this ragtag, goofy group of newsies, and they're fighting hard for their rights, and there's great friendship dynamics between them, and I don't know, I just really liked it. The music was really good. It's just like a feel-good movie, although there are some intense things, but you kind of just know that everything's gonna be okay in the end. 4 out of 5 stars. I did not cry. Alright, so the first book that I read in July was Puddin by Julie Murphy. This takes place at a high school in a small Texas town, and we're following 2 main characters. We have Millie, who doesn't want to go back to fat camp this summer, even though her mom really wants her to. Instead, she is planning on going to a broadcast journalism camp to start her future because she has it figured out and that's what she wants to do with her life. And then we have Callie, who is a member of the dance team, hoping to be captain next year, and dance is pretty much everything to her. That's all that she does. It's her entire life. When a prank goes terribly wrong, Callie ends up losing what she thought was everything, and she has to kind of rethink her entire life. So Callie and Millie end up forming a very unlikely but very beautiful friendship, and really, that's what this book is about, is the friendship between these 2 characters, and it's definitely one of the best friendships that I've ever read about. Each girl is just so well written. They are so well developed. They feel so real. They're so unique. I mean, Millie, she's just this super optimistic, always positive, sunshine person, and then Callie is really a jerk at the beginning, but then she slowly starts to be less of a just complete jerk and finds herself and then stops laughing. There's also a fabulous cast of side characters who just make everything so much fun. You're just watching Callie and Millie find themselves and figure out who they want to be and what they want to do in life. We have healthy romances that are not even close to being the main focus of the book. They are sidelined, but they're still there, and there's so many cute dates, but it doesn't take over the story, which I really appreciate, especially in a YA contemporary. It's a very diverse cast of characters, which is always good. There are multiple races represented, as well as some very good LGBTQ. 5 out of 5 stars, and it did not make me cry. The next thing I read was Pumpkin by Julie Murphy, which is a companion book, so it takes place at the same high school. In this one, we're following Waylon, and he is gay and fat, and he is discovering drag. So as he's discovering drag, Waylon decides that he is no longer gonna hide in the shadows, and that he is going to run for prom queen at school, and we go from there. This is just a fun story about a kid again figuring out who he is and finally starting to be comfortable in his own skin and finding love and just running for prom queen. It's just a lot of fun. It's nothing like super groundbreaking or anything, but I enjoyed it. Waylon didn't feel nearly as fleshed out as Callie and Millie did to me. He was just kind of boring, and I feel like we didn't know much about him. I just felt like he wasn't as tangible as some of Julie Murphy's other characters are. He does get some really good growth though, which was nice. If he had just like stayed the same boring self that he was at the beginning, then I would have been really upset, but he did grow some, so that was good. So I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I did not cry. What I want to read in August, honestly, I'll just be happy if I get through Any Way the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell, because I read so slow, and finishing this might be a struggle. This is the third book in the Simon Snow trilogy. This is very heavily inspired by Harry Potter. It's an enemies to lovers romance. We have a gay wizard and vampire who are in love. It's a chosen one story, but like a unique twist on that. And it also has a really interesting magic system that has a lot to do with words and language, and these books are just so much fun with some really great characters, and I'm excited to close the trilogy out with this one. Alright, so that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye.